guys, and welcome back to the woods. It's a woods that I used to frequent quite a bit, and indeed you would have passed a bushcraft shelter of mine that's been pulled down a couple of years ago. It's going back to nature nicely, as you can see from all the moss. But I've escaped the workshop and my general chores at home, and I've come down for an hour basically to have a coffee break, and I'm just going to soak in a little bit of the woodland. But I'm here to talk about the humble pocket knife, and the pocket knife in regards to how my grandfather would regard a pocket knife. A pocket knife can encompass anything more futuristic that you can find and see online, even going into the vein of a slip or a folder that resembles a bushcraft knife. But I'm going to step back from that, and I've got two pocket knives. One that I've had for what feels like ever and a day, and has been used, heavily. And I've got one which I got a couple years back because I've quite simply always wanted one. I'll let you have a look. My grandfather had a pocket knife always in his pocket. He worked on the land, and it was used in and around the farm and garden. Animal feed bags, binder twine, shaping and cutting sticks, not only to hold a gateway open but also to shape a stick for when he was hedging with a bill hook, or those curved, almost like hand size, where he could trim hedges back. And yes, that was before flails, and even then some of the hedges around gateways you still had to do it by hand, because the flail would obviously get knocked to pieces. So yeah, I'm going to talk about it from the point of view of what I consider or call a grandfather's pocket knife. I don't have any legal qualifications, so everything I talk about regarding pocket knives is my opinion. And as from a legal point of view, you should always check out your own laws and your situation for how you want to use it, where you're going to use it, and the item that you're taking to use. So do your own research. This is just my opinion and how I operate with the items I've got. So everything I talk about here, like I said, is something relating to myself. You must go and do your own research and find out your legal responsibilities for any items that you take into the woods. So having said that, I'm going to get a cup of coffee on the go, and we'll have a little look at my pocket knives, and from there we'll have a little chat. I still have my original stones that I had my fireplace set on. They didn't get moved, but it's a nice little touch, a nice little reminder. But I'm going to have a little coffee just to enjoy the woodlands. It's been quite busy, and the weather is looking like it's possibly on the turn again. So I think I'm just going to get my fill of the woodlands. I'm using gas, not fire or fire gel, for convenience. I've got the usual coffee that comes as a 2-in-1, but it's okay. I do like real coffee, particularly in the woods, but I can make do with this, and it's the convenience. Right, I think I'm pretty much all set. Just gotta wait for it now. Put the stuff away. Right, let's go and sit down. Right then, so here's my two pocket knives, UK legal, and that one is a Victorinox camping model, and you will be well familiar with that style of pocket knife. This one here is just some random pocket knife that I've found along the way, but I've had it with me for quite a while. And that's been the case with me all my life. I've either traded or bought from somebody or basically found pocket knives all my life. But in any case, this is what I generally take with me when I'm out in the woods, camping, wild camping, or doing anything. Now these knives have other functions like can openers, screwdrivers, corkscrews and things like that, but for me in general it's these items that I use when I'm out in the woods, the saw and the actual knife blade, and that's all I'm really this isn't a review, I'm just discussing basically the humble pocket knife and what your main use will be for it, or the uses that I have for it. But I'll put my tape measure there, which is quite it's quite important for us in the UK. You can see it comes in even up against the hilt, or the, I think they call it the Roscaro. It's under 3 inches on the Victorinox, and obviously the smaller blade is well smaller, and even the saw comes into just below 3 inches. And the same with this one here. You can see on this one that sits well within the 3-inch mark. So you know, these are UK legal definitely, and you can see the saw blade on this one is below 3. Right then, well, the saw is very sharp on this one, and I've taken I suppose branches out to sort of like 2 inches in diameter, or sticks. The knife is extremely sharp, holds an edge, and the quality of steel in the blade is absolutely fantastic. It doesn't seem to discolour or rust or take on any sort of like taints to the steel, and it sharpens extremely well. Just a few passes and you can bring that right back up again. So this is you know, a fantastic item, and for me, being an outdoors person, quite often a pocket knife is all I need to take with me. And indeed, even though I've got my own bushcraft knives which I've forged, which are larger ones and fixed blade obviously, I'm now finding myself reverting back to the humble pocket knife for all my outdoor activities. I'll discuss that in a moment, but that's quite simply a fact. And yeah, I'm very pleased with that, and it's something I've wanted, because quite simply through all the years I've had pocket knives of this type of well basically this type of pocket knife, this was always the stuff of legends amongst young boys. And if you're you know, an outdoors person, a Victorinox or Swiss Army knife was just something that you always wanted. Now this is a random pocket knife that I've acquired along the way, and I don't know where it's come from or how I've acquired it, but I've been using it for a long time now. The blade, like I said, is still of a reasonable quality of steel. It never discolors, it keeps an edge, and it's easy to put an edge back on it. The saw has done me extremely well in the outdoors environment, but it is starting to get to the point I'm thinking I may have to retire this one and think about a new pocket knife, quite simply because, well, that saw isn't up to scratch how it used to be. It still takes sticks, but it could be a lot sharper. This one here, like I said, I use it outdoors, but it's kind of like it's kind of my treasured item. Yeah, I've always wanted one. It isn't a lot of money, but you know, I've got it now. I'm going to keep it in good serviceable condition. I will get another one which will become my mainstay, main usable one. This is my Sunday best, only comes out on rare special occasions. So in the hand, a pocket knife does fit quite well. I mean, obviously there's different styles, and you can see I've got an average sized hand, not a big or a small hand, and you can see how that blade fits in my hand. A lot of people would say, you know, it's going to be inefficient and too small, but I would have to say, as I was brought up in a small Cornish village all my life, and outdoor activities is what I did out on the farms, basically hunting, building dens, being out and about, you know, and a pocket knife did everything I needed to do at that particular point. I didn't have access to fancy bushcraft knives. A pocket knife had to do what I needed to do. Obviously the Victorinox is a slightly larger blade, but still UK legal. And as you can see, it doesn't look or feel too out of place in the hand. And there's the saw in itself. That gives you an idea of scale. Well, when you're in the shade and that wind is whistling through these trees, I do feel a bit of a chill when I'm pulling my jacket up around my neck, and I'm glad I've got a kind of like heavier military windproof smock on, because yeah, that wind is really cutting. It's not overly cold out in the sun though, so yeah, it's nice to warm my hands against the mug. Now, getting back to pocket knives, I'm finding myself gravitating to pocket knives more than taking more substantial knives with me when I'm out in environments like this. That is quite simply because I feel personally more safe and secure in the knowledge that I have a UK legal item on me when I'm out and about in the woodlands. And yeah, that allows me to enjoy this environment, you know, a lot more. You would have seen my pocket knife on a lot of my videos, even when I've had other knives and axes with me. My knife has been sat there discreet for me to do my food prep, open my packages, or sharpen a few sticks, or even to process some feather sticks and things like that. My pocket knife has been there quietly in the background. And that's the thing, I've had pocket knives since I was a young kid. I've used them, I've been around them, I understand them, and I find a sense of joy of having that very small item in my pocket when I'm out and about in the woodlands and in the outdoor environment, because it's a tool and I'm able to use it to perform a multitude of wild camping, bushcrafting tasks. And it's also there if I need to retrieve a stick on a country lane that's blown over, I can trim it up and use it. If I get caught up in some barbed wire, I have in the past had to use a pocket knife just to cut myself free from barbed wire when I've got entangled on trousers. As silly as that may sound, but I don't suppose many people will have to do that, but I have used a pocket knife for that. So yeah, I'm going to replace my other pocket knife at some point with a newer one. My Victorinox, like I said, is my Sunday best. I understand a lot of people do enjoy owning and using full bushcraft knives out in this environment, but for me, you know, unless I'm on permissioned properties and woodlands, I'm beginning to feel that my pocket knife serves me better. So you will probably see in a lot of my videos the absence of other items, and the pocket knives will be coming more to the forefront of my tool usage out environments like this. So yeah, a pocket knife is my new favourite bushcraft tool. Right, I'm going to drink this and eat my cakes, and we'll have a little walk and talk then. But there is nothing better than being in the woods, having coffee and a cake. This is my lunch break after all. And I'm not in an office or a factory. I'm able to come to here to have my lunch break. So I'm pretty blessed and privileged on that regard. So there is a big scene for collecting pocket knives, incidentally, and I was quite surprised because you know, you stumble upon it, and it's quite fascinating, and you know, people really do take it quite seriously and hold, you know, vast collections of vintage knives, different types of knives, and yeah, it's quite fascinating. And you know, people will pay some good money for some of those vintage pocket knives. Obviously in the UK, most of the best ones would have come from Sheffield, up in that area, where a lot of knife making, cutlery and metalworking took place back in the day. My grandfather, I remember his having that well, pear-shaped handle to it, like a fatter bottom end, and it seemed to fit the hand quite well, and it had black scales, and yeah, it looked a nice knife, and it would be nice if that was still in existence or in the family now, but I don't think it is. But yeah, there is a big collectible scene in it, in pocket knives. I don't think I shall ever, you know, be that, you know, curious to get, you know, involved in it on that scale. Pocket knives are a tool for me out in this environment. So addressing safety concerns with pocket knives, yes, you can't get away from the fact of a non-locking, folding UK pocket knife can be dangerous if not used properly. And when I say dangerous, that is to the user themselves. It can fold back on your hand or fingers, and it's something you don't want to find out for yourself, so you do have to be aware of that and not push that knife and blade at an angle where your force can force that blade to come back with enough devastating impact to cause your hand and fingers damage. So you do have to be careful of that. And I guess that brings you on to the limiting factors of a pocket knife and a knife that is basically a folder with a non-locking blade. Yes, you are limited to what you can do and how you can do it in the woodlands, and in some regards that forces you back, like for me, as I think I've tried to mention, forces you back into a more primitive and a more, how can I put it this way, a simpler manner of bushcraft and wild camping. You can't be battening big pieces of wood with a pocket knife. You can't be over exerting force on it when you're trying to cut through pieces of wood or sticks to create points. Everything is done carefully. Everything is done in small incremental steps. and it's managed. And yes, there will be jobs a pocket knife, or a lot of jobs a pocket knife simply will not be able to do, and you will have to learn to overcome and adapt and find other ways around that situation that you have. Now, yes, a lot of people regarding the laws surrounding knives in the UK, and I guess I'm talking about pocket knives here, might find them restrictive, stupid, silly, but they are the laws that we have, and the laws only seem to be getting tighter and more excessive. And that's quite simply because we do have a lot of knife crime here. The general public, you know, have long since lost any toleration for knife crime, and the police have zero tolerance. And of course, that obviously leads to following legislation. It does seem a certain cohort of individuals are basically driving this knife crime epidemic. And to be honest with you, they're not in places like this doing what I'm kind of doing with a knife. But it's people like me that ultimately feel the impact of it, because tougher legislation impacts on my enjoyment out here in the woodlands. So like I said, I've always had pocket knives and enjoyed having one on me and using it when I've been out and about. I carry one when I go for dog walks and when I'm just ambling around the countryside. It's quite simply a tool, and I do use it. More often than not, I can find a stick lying on the road and I'll trim it up and bring it back home. But nevertheless, I've kind of not fallen in love again with pocket knives, but I've kind of realised that as I'm beginning to shift my focus and my train of thought away from fixed blade knives and things like that, I'm kind of finding that little spark again, and it's kind of reminding me a little bit of my childhood, but also I can think of my granddad. And you know, even as I get older, a pocket knife will be a tool that you will find in my pocket. And yeah, I don't see that ever changing now, unless of legislation stops it. Now, I do understand it when some people who may be watching this think that I'm going in a backward and opposite direction than a lot of wild campers and bushcrafters in regards to the knife, you know, usage and thoughts. But I would counter that. I think I'm becoming more forward thinking because of some of the reasons I've suggested here, and primarily the fact that of staying on the right side of the law in some of the places that I go to and or in and around. So yeah, I personally feel that this will be the way forward, and it's opened up a whole new avenue of, well, knife tools for me to look at again. And I found myself becoming increasingly drawn to those sites and all the information about them, and looking at the various models and styles that you can get, because quite simply it's a pretty expansive subject to get into, with the variety that you can get and the price range. And as with everything, the price, you know, you pay will reflect the quality of the item and indeed what the actual item is. Obviously, if you're, you know, thinking about vintage pocket knives, well, you know, the sky's your limit for that if you're looking for a true vintage one, and a rare model at that. But yeah, I'm only really beginning to touch into this subject. Like I said, all my childhood, my pocket knives were ones that I either traded, were given, or found, or, you know, basically acquired along the way. So yeah, yeah, paying for pocket knives is a relatively new phenomena for me as well. Right then guys, I'm going to head back to the workshop because I've got hiking sticks to craft and they're not going to craft themselves, and I've got customers waiting on me. So this was just a little bit of a rambling video, just saying how I'm beginning to revert back to pocket knives more than any other tool I take with me when I'm in the outdoors. It's not legal advice, and it certainly isn't you know, suggesting what you should be doing or how you should be conducting yourself. It's just my perspective on things as basically somebody in the outdoors here in the UK. As always, you need to check out and do your own research on the laws and how they are relevant to you. But yeah, I think I could be in the market for a new pocket knife soon, and hopefully when I do get one, I'll let you guys have a look. But like I said, for now I'm going to make my way up through this woodland. So all that's left to be said is take care, stay safe, and I hope to catch you guys on the trail.